Okay. I've officially hit the record button. I think that means everyone is going to have to accept those consequences on their screen. But hello, everybody. It is a great day for the Positive Growth Lounge. I have someone from the West Coast that I had the pleasure of meeting at a student mental wellness conference in Anaheim, which is coming up in a few weeks, and I cannot go this year, but it was, I would say, life changing and eye opening, probably in a lot of scary ways. There was a lot of challenges with student mental health, but we talked about so many things, and I learned so much selfishly for myself as well. But our guest speaker tonight, we overlapped and connected immediately, and we have overlapping messages. My guest speaker here pours into like helping teachers, help youth, but also supports so many guidance counselors across the humongous state of California. So without further ado, I would love to welcome our guest here today. So Lezya, how are you to this evening?
Oh my goodness, so good. And I'm so sorry. I don't know where everyone's logging in from, but I have my picture I took last week at the beach, not trying to rub it in or anything.
That is kind of a rubbing in.
I'm doing great. Busy day at work. I'm sure you can. I don't know if you're all back in schools already.
So we're all a different crew of peeps here. I know that Trisha D, you went back today, right?
Yes, today was the first day back.
I
Are you
had
still
freshmen
stuck
today
Okay.
and full school tomorrow. Claire is an amazing human that works with the University of Illinois in Chicago, UIC. Is that what we call it technically, Claire? Right?
Yep, UIC.
Yeah, and she pours in to a lot of different humans that are supporting professors, the education system. So, really great human. Trish Wilkinson is a former educator that now pours into educators as well, restoring joy. So she is tied to education. And then the delightful Erica So is also from the state of Cali and is a science teacher extraordinaire and is currently working on bringing offspring into the world. Is that not true? In a science term.
Yeah. I'm in maternity leave now. I went to PD for like 2 days and I'm like, bye guys.
That's kind of PD, right? I'll just process this for a little bit.
Awesome. So
congratulations.
So yeah, just so you know, our group and where everyone's coming from, but we're all here to learn. And I know that our paths cross because of the positive psych overlap and your passion with Ikigai. But we are sponges, just looking to first of all learn a little bit about you and kind of your journey, and then also any tips, suggestions, things you felt in your life that have helped enrich your life or the people we work with, etc. We're all open. And then as always, guys, we're looking to keep this really casual so that people can ask questions and we can have dialogue and process together. So does that sound good, everybody?
Love it.
All right.
Yeah.
Rockstar guest speaker. Can you tell us just maybe a little bit of your backstory, how you got into the world you did, and then from there we can start picking your brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to say that I get to do things and have the privilege of doing what I do, which is my background is in school counseling, but I actually haven't been in this space for that long. I always say that my why is my son. So I have a neurodiverse son on the autism spectrum, and just my educational journey with him, like his early intervention services, his diagnosis, being a parent, and then just navigating like IEP life. There, from like kind of his journey, I got connected and just put my student hat on and did everything I could to support him at home. I feel like I got a Google degree and like speech therapy, ABA, all the things. But it led me to want to go back to school and say, like, how can I support families and students in a different way now that I have this new lens? So when he was in middle school, I'm like, I'm going back to grad school and I'm going to become a school counselor, because I felt like in that position, I can not only service students directly, but also work with families and schools. And we say that counselors are the heart of the school. And so I wanted to be in that position to be able to support other people, all students, right? Neurodiverse, not whatever, whatever their life circumstances were. And as a grad student, I went to a conference and I was sitting there, it was on CTE. And the speaker brought up this concept of ikigai, and it was just the Venn diagram. And I don't know if you're all familiar with ikigai or the Venn diagram. Okay. Yeah. So there's this guy named Dan Bettner. He's from like National Geographic. He wanted to study the areas where there was large populations of centenarians, people that live in 100. I think he has a Netflix show now. It's called The Blue Zones. He wrote a book about it. And he went to Okinawa, Japan. And he was trying to like kind of study the culture there. And he learned that they live by this idea of ikigai. And roughly translated, it means like your life purpose or your reason for being. And he did this whole TED talk about it. And so some other guy listened to this TED talk and put a visual to what he was saying. And it's the now infamous kind of Venn diagram where these circles are overlapping. And really at the heart of it is like, who are you? What are you really good at? What do you love to do? And how can you gift that to the world and get compensated for it? And like, and not monetarily, but like, how can it enrich your life? And that really aligns with this like idea that it leads to like a happy life and fulfilled life. And I remember sitting there, of course I was going to learn about CTE, but I think I had this like self-reflection moment where I'm like, wow, this would have been so cool to learn about like way a long time ago when I was a student. Because what do we as educators or adults ask kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And kids like are like, I don't know, YouTuber. They want to be what they can see. But like, what if we actually started thinking about like, who are they right now? Like, what are your strengths right now as a 7-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old? And of course, I was thinking through my mom lens of like having to feel like I had to convince people to love my son for who he was, right? And despite some of those challenges. And so in my head, I just had this like self-reflection moment, like, wow, what if we in education approached our work through this like asset-based lens, this positive lens of strengths. And then through this message of like, our kids have these gifts that they can give the world, right? And then I thought like, as adults too, we have these gifts that we can give the world. And so I just kind of ran with it. I talked to the presenter and she, she's like, I'm here to talk about CTE, right? She didn't realize like the impact that it had on me. Like, I think everyone needs to hear this message. And she was like, go take it, run with it. And so I did. I kind of like, even through my formation as an educator, I think it really shifted how I approached my work, and I've kind of like ran with it. So
I love that. I'm looking up the Venn diagram right now, and it looks like the overlap between what you love, what the world needs, what you are good at, and then which is and then an important one, what you can get paid for. I mean, we have to make money. I mean, otherwise it'd be great if we didn't, but I mean, that's right. Important. And I love that. I think when I started hearing about ikigai and then people saying like, can you do something you love, but the world needs, and you're good at it, and then unapologetically, like make money for it too. Like, is there a way to put all that together? And I thought that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I love that. So that's where the seed was planted.
Yeah. And when I saw that you were presenting at the conference, I'm like, wow, he's going to talk about it through the lens of adults, right? And of course, I think about it. In addition, I didn't even say what I really get to do. So I went to school to be a school counselor, and I was a middle school counselor for a while, and then kind of ascended pretty quickly. I went to the district office or central office in my area and supported not just counselors, but MTSS rollout, mental health. Then the pandemic happened, and then we really needed mental health support. And And so I did a lot of our mental health initiatives in my district. And then parallel to that, I was part of our state association, and really supported advocacy work, policy legislation on supporting student mental health all over California, collaborated with like our school social worker organization and school psychologists. Because you all, I mean, in education, we work in silos so much of the time, and we don't take the time to like collaborate with each other. And that collaboration was really essential because you want to walk. I mean, we're all going in the same direction. Why not carpool together instead of trying to like cut each other off? Like my position's better than yours. But so that was really cool. And then I try to bring some of that work to the district level. And then now I'm at the regional level. I'm at the San Diego County Office of Education. So I get to do that similar type of work, and support all 42 school districts in San Diego County. So yeah, thank you.
Powerful woman alert. I love that. That's amazing. Okay. I think that's, I'm not surprised how you ascended, because my interactions with you, your passion and helping others. So if I could ask a quick question, again, if we think about those things of like what I love, what the world needs, what am I good at, and then what can you be paid for? Say that we're working with, and I know that you support adults in many different ways, but what happens when people say like I don't really know where to go from there? That sounds like a beautiful dream, but how can we help younger adults? I teach high schoolers. We have a kindergarten teacher to high school, middle school in here, and then we also have, like, Claire's in a huge role of supporting adults. And Claire, I know we've talked before, like you're kind of siloed in your gigantic institution in some ways too. So like, how can we as world changers, how can we start helping people towards that? Is there anything that you've found that, like, dialogue or tricks or, I don't know, steps or anything like that to start help people to find that?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just starting small, right? Because for some folks, the reality is that they have a family to support. They can't just quit their job and go like backpacking through Europe, because really that would be my passion to do, right? Can't we just all do that? But if we could kind of find some intentionality and carving out the spaces to do those things that kind of fill your bucket, right? Self-care is now 4-letter words that sometimes just go right. Like people just don't want to hear it anymore. But like thinking small about like what kind of fills your bucket. Me, like not like in my role as a teacher or an educator, but like what kind of fills my bucket, I think is a really great place to start. Because I think that self-reflection is really important. And the more that we kind of get in touch with who we are as people, I think the more that we're in a position to then offer those gifts that we have to other people. And so, but sometimes we're just in this like transactional mode and like, okay, I have to pick up the kids and then I have to go to, and then we don't really stop to think, right? Like, intentionally about that. I think one of the best things that I did for myself a few years ago is schedule time with myself. And I hadn't done, like, I got to a point where I felt like I was prioritizing other people's needs before my own, whether it's school or the association or whatever. And I literally on my calendar, like blocked off a time where, then I went to work out or whatever it is. And so I think that led to some more self-reflection and thinking about like the spaces that I navigate, my locus of control. How can I, this little thing, bring to my area of influence, my sphere of influence? And so that I think that for me, that was kind of how I've tried to have that ripple effect too.
I love that. I think that self-reflection, I love how you said that too. We are like in such a habit of living and going through the motions that sometimes we just don't pause to think about what do I enjoy. And I think that I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think that's why we gel so well together. We believe in a lot of the same stuff. So we're indoctrinating all of you. But I'm a public educator. That's what I do. I indoctrinate. But anyways, sorry. But the idea that, yeah, once you find your gifts, even, and I love you said that it doesn't have anything to do with your work, but that doesn't mean we can't bring that in somehow to give to others, inspire them, and motivate and inspire yourself. So I love that message. I think that's so beautiful. And that when we can feel good with what we're doing, but also give it to others, now we're cooking with gas. And then another thing you said of I'd love to backpack through Europe. You may not know, but Trisha D eyes lit up when you said that, because Trisha actually goes and sees the world and then creates lessons for young students who can't get there. And uh I want to make her ridiculously rich. And I just had another idea. I think we need to get Trish to get sponsored by places to go. They pay her and for her trip so that she can bring it back and sell the lessons, but also is making the money from the places. They're like, come to us, Trish. I like this. So all these kindergartners and third graders say, Mom, I want to go there. So we're going to make Trish rich while helping children. Okay.
Phil, you're amazing. Awesome. Thank
I love that so much. I love that so much. And I think that, like, as you were talking, I was thinking about, like, when we know who we are authentically ourselves and we bring that to our spaces, like, kids are watching, like, our students are watching, and that's what they pick up on. That's what they remember the most. As a counselor, I love to take pictures when I travel, and I had a wall full of some of my travel pictures, and it would just authentically lead to conversations, right? About, oh, where's that? And even though I'm in San Diego, I'm like 10 minutes from the beach. There's students that have never touched their feet in the sand and the water, right? The district I was working in is very socioeconomically diverse, and it's those things that we take for granted in the world that we can open up to them, and as a counselor, I heard a lot of stories of trauma, right? And I was lucky to work with students that were in middle school, so they weren't that young, but old enough where I could start planting seeds of, like, there's life after high school, and you can choose that, and you can go places like this and explore, and and there's a path forward. There's a really cool book called The Science of Hope, and I don't know if any of you have ever studied The Science of Hope. It's amazing. Dr. Hellman actually has a TED Talk that I would highly recommend, but he talks about how like, to inspire hope, like, there's a difference between a wish and a hope. Like, a wish you have no control over, but hope, you can help build the hope. You can help build your hope score. There's actually an assessment that you could do to kind of gauge your level of hope. But, like, I feel like as educators, wow, we're in such positions to inspire hope in our students, and, like, showing them, like, almost lighting the torch for them, and, like, kind of lighting it in front and say, see, look at all the possibilities that you can have. And then sometimes we step back and we let them explore. Sometimes we walk side by side with them. But, like, as educators, how many positions are there that you can, like, be that person for our students and fellow educators too?
Wonderful. I think this has brought up a bunch of ideas and thoughts. I had one more question, and then forgive me, guys. I'm not trying to hog. If you guys have things you want to add, to chime in, to readdress, to question, feel free. And Trish W, if you got something too, feel free. Come on in and fire away. I love it.
I have two real quick things. The first thing is, you were talking about Trisha and travel writing and having other people, and it just occurred to me, oh my gosh, my phone is low on juice. Sorry. So if I cut out, you'll know why. But Trisha, I'm going to email you with a recording to the meeting over the prepare, purpose, process thing anyway, if you want to engage in that. But I have a friend who's a travel writer who makes a really good living travel writing, and they pay for her to go places all the time. And I bet you could talk to her and kind of brainstorm with her and figure out what that looks like. And so that was the first thing I wanted to say. And the second thing is, I love what you're talking about, Lezya, is that how I say your name?
Yes, that's perfect. Lezya, or the Spanish pronunciation. My parents are
Oh,
Latino.
Lezya.
Lezya,
Okay.
Lezya or Lezya. Yep.
And the other thing, I'm working with teachers on purpose or prepare purpose process. So preparing their brains to learn, but then giving their learning purpose. And that's a lot of what you're talking about, is creating purpose for people. And that's, so it goes right in the line of, which makes sense because we're all like, similar views on what we're doing on this, but helping people create purpose, that's just another whole avenue of how you're doing that. And I love that you're in San Diego. I taught in San Diego for many years. Now I live half time in California, half time in Oregon, but we should definitely connect, because purpose is huge. When we can create purpose for students, they can do so much better in school, because they internalize, like they're learning things in context and out of context. So I love what you're doing with, figure out what you're good at. And that's one of the things we do with figuring out purpose. If we don't know what we're learning about, go to ChatGPT. I'm an 8-year-old who loves cars, who, whatever, and we're going to learn this concept. How could I use this concept in math or science or social science or whatever you're learning, right? And it'll come up with a whole list of stuff. So it's all about, and now we have tools that are here that we're stuck with, that are here to stay. So why not use some of those things that it's not like they're going anywhere? So let's figure out how to use them in a positive way, right?
I love that. I love that so much. And also, I feel like when there's purpose, you are more likely to work through some of the challenges that arise, right? There's this false sense that like our paths are linear, or that just because you're passionate about something that it's easy. And then so when it's not easy, you give up and you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't for me. But I think that, right, that intrinsic motivation is so important to the work, and also support students in not getting to college and trying to figure it out there, right? That's an expensive lesson to try to figure out in college.
For parents, right?
Yeah, and for parents.
We had two kids in college at once. We felt like we were driving a BMW off a cliff every time we had to make one of those payments.
Guys, I'm so sorry. I have to jump off till I gotta get going to catch up with some of the kids at our church right now. But it was really nice meeting you. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's all connect more and chat. But thank you. I appreciated the session. So you guys have a great night, okay?
Yeah, bye, Trisha.
All right. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Yeah, Trisha told me in advance she felt really bad just leaving. She wanted to make sure you guys didn't think. It was like, peace out. No, I love that. I agree. And when I was looking more at that Venn diagram, it kind of like overlaps even more, like what you love and what the world needs, they say, is like your mission. And what you love and what you're good at is a passion. And what you're good at and what you get paid for is a profession. And what the world needs and what you get paid for is a vocation. So it gets closer and closer. I'll make sure in the recap too, Lezya, that I put a picture of that in there so that they can see that as well. But looking into that.
And I'm happy to share the presentation that I just did at the national conference.
Oh,
I could just give that to you all. And I think one of my strengths is I think it's called input, like you get all the resources and then like you share them out. So I'm a resource hoarder. So you can get lost in all the hyperlinks and stuff like that, but it's all there for you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. If you guys are looking to get down the Ikigai rabbit hole, sounds like we got a deep hole to go down. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're
So
welcome.
I know that I think too, once you start seeing your Ikigai and getting closer to it, I think it's natural to get excited and want to help others. So I love how you said one of the ways is to like help them to start finding some of their passions, and could that overlap with a profession? And Trish, I like how you said that, like things like ChatGPT. I mean, it's crazy now because guidance counselors pay huge money for these programs to help students find like potential career overlaps. And now that you said that, I wonder if like ChatGPT is going to start taking over some of those career opportunity things. So, but anyways, it is a cool resource, at least to brainstorm, maybe a fun activity to do. Claire, maybe not for you. They might start leaving their jobs if you start giving them ideas.
Chat GPT is a very touchy subject in our college right now.
Yes.
Really, they're trying to figure out how to work with it in the classroom, but
Yeah.
make sure that the students aren't committing plagiarism or making sure that the information that they're pulling is actually accurate. And
Yes.
it's very touchy. They're actually doing a whole retreat on it next week with the faculty on how to integrate AI and Chat GPT into their curriculum and write up policies for syllabi and things like that. I mean, it's really a bit of a can of worms right now.
Sure. Well, it's a lot of unknown, and just like anything, a double-edged sword with anything new. I know Trish W, I know you say, like, I don't think it's going away. So can we help empower people to use it in positive ways? And then Claire, I can totally agree. How can a university give a degree if they're not quite sure if the person really proved whether they know it? Or, I mean, I don't want anyone operating on my leg.
I was just about to say, I mean, we're a health science college. You don't want them cheating and then getting out into the real world. I mean, that's bad things.
Totally. I mean, totally fair to see all that, but to utilize resources to dig in further, I think is a really cool and beautiful thing that we all can do. And I'm a big fan of, the term is like side hustle or whatever, but having a project outside of your quote unquote career, I think really makes you well versed by, I know that when I started let me start. When I was a wedding DJ, because of that, I was also a better teacher. I knew music. I introduced people all the time. I'm not saying you should be a wedding DJ to be a teacher, but I mean, I took skills from that. And then also me being a public educator, I also I was better at communicating as a DJ because I could read a room and I knew what was appropriate and inappropriate and just gray enough to get a laugh with adults. Like, you really do pull skills from other things and you get inspired by that. So I think having your ikigai, it doesn't necessarily have to completely overlap with your career, or it can start with something else too. So I don't know. Lizzie, you got anything to say like towards that? Thoughts on that? Should we focus on like it being our full-time thing, or should we just start taking steps? Any comments on that?
I think that, like, ideally, when I think about it through the lens of education, I feel really fortunate that I was able to find my ikigai in what I get to do every day. And so I love it. And that's how we end up with all the things on our plates, right? Like, oh yeah, I will do that and I will present here and but then also it's because I love what I do. And I think that the students like deserve to have folks that love what they do. So I'm sure in this room, like, people found that alignment, right, with like their gifts and then gifting it in an educational setting. And so, but we work with people that like it because it's convenient and they get summers off and like they get to clock out at 3:30 and stuff. And so, and I just
also a sore subject for Claire, but
yeah, I was gonna say summertime is not summer. I work 100% of the time. So the faculty, it's like, you know what? You go run away and I'll see you in 2.5 months. And I hope you're better rested than I am by the time you come back.
I believe as my wife would tell me, you do you.
You do you, that's right.
I'm with you, Claire. When the drawback of going to the county, it is a 12-month contract. So no more summer. So I'm so jealous when are like, oh, closing my laptop for the summer. Yeah, that's not happening.
With your background, I don't feel that bad for you, actually, with that background.
Thanks, Bill. I'm just squeezing in some me time. This just happens to be where I get to do that.
Okay, I love that. I think that that is a really great point, though. I would say I accidentally, maybe I did, maybe it was an accidental, but I feel like I fell into my ikigai without really realizing. I felt like I just got lucky. I had a great teacher that steered me in this direction. He kind of knew my strengths, and then it just kind of happened. And So when I try to, Lizzie, I know you talk to people too. I want to help them get there. And
Yeah.
sometimes maybe I could see how they could be like, well, it's easy for you. You kind of fell into it. So I wonder if that's true, or if
I think part of that is that for some of us, right, it is haphazard. Like you said, like as an adult, you're kind of reflecting back and like, oh yeah, like this happened, that happened. But what if we were more intentional in that, in the spaces that we're in, and we have those intentional conversations so that our kids, whatever age range they're in, like I teach at San Diego State, so my kids are in their 20s, right? But they're still young. And so when I ask, like, what are your strengths? What are you like? Even for them, they have to think about it. Or there's this awkwardness about even like self-proclaiming that I'm a compassionate person or whatever. Like there's just like, it's just not customary for us to live in that space. So when a middle schooler stares at me blankly, or an elementary schooler just doesn't know like what they're good at, like that's where I feel that that's my locus of control right there. There's an intentionality around saying like, you are so cool, right? And I feel like we are in a position, whether it's for littles or adults, that we like to even point things out to people, because like Phil, I love how you were able to connect people and make a smile, right? When's the last time someone said that intentionally to you, right? And as educators, it's so nice to hear these things because we do what we do. But like when someone else notices, like then you're like, oh yeah, I am, like, thanks. Like that's great. I'm glad that you noticed that, right? So if we are able to point these things out to like our admin secretary, like, oh my God, you were so great with that family that is normally really difficult, right? Like that was so cool. It was really nice to see you in action. Or like, I love how you remember all the students' names. Like, how do you do it? Do you have a trick? Like all those little things that might seem like insignificant, but like they're being noticed. They are strengths. We just sometimes need someone else to see it too, to like almost like help us remember that we have these gifts that we bring. So, and guess what? They're going to do it more. They're going to do, like, our students are going to be nicer, more, whatever it is that we're pointing out. As adults, we're like, oh, I'm going to try to intentionally connect these two people because someone noticed that. And so I don't know. I think that that's something that we can do.
And can I say something about that too? I love that you just said that about doing that for adults and people that are in our lives. But I found that when I did that with my students, I would acknowledge them for little things all the time. And you're right. One, you get more of it. But the other thing that starts happening is when you model that and you're doing that really regularly, one of your kids does that to another child, for another child. And then you acknowledge both the child that was acknowledged and the child who acknowledged. So then you have this kind of thing that goes around the classroom. Eventually you have everybody supporting each other. And it's like organic social and emotional learning, if that makes sense, because you're doing it in context. I feel like so many things that we do, with the best of intentions, are not necessarily in context. And what you're talking about, just acknowledging people for things they do and being very specific, you not only get more of it, but you model that and do that enough, you get to see your kids doing it too. And it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. And so I think that intentionality is really, really huge. So
we were not with littles. I work with the big kids. I work with graduate students for the most part. And I get them anywhere from 22 to about 50. So this past 2 weeks, me and a group of other administrators, we've been doing leadership essentials courses. And one of the things that we focused on the first day with each other was to reflect a little bit, do a bit of an introspective moment, and talk about a moment or an experience that we had where we stepped outside of the immediate expectations of our job to do something special or extraordinary for someone. And one of the team members who was talking, he was very quiet. I think he was a little uncomfortable with the process. And he said, I can't really think of anything. He goes, the best thing that comes to mind is that You know, I work in a surgery ward. We had a situation come up with one of the machines, and you know, the machine was down and it needed to be addressed, and I was the first one to jump up and say, you know, I'll go do it. And I said, but that's it. There's your, you know, there's your moment of you know, even to you it seems so minute, you don't think about it, but what you just did there was, other than showing everybody that you are the reliable person that you are, you also made it so that those individuals, their day wasn't interrupted to have to go and run and service the machine. You gave them that gift of being able to take it upon yourself to do it instead of leaving it for them to do. I said, that's huge, because I know we all have days where we're like, if I could please get 15 minutes without an interruption, or if I could please just have a moment to think where someone doesn't need something from me, that would be great. You know, I told him, I said, don't shortchange yourself for that. It's such a huge gift. I said, and, you know, I hope that maybe you'll kind of be more conscious of it as you go forward, because I'm sure that there will be people that will do it for you, and you want to recognize, you know, that for what it is and for how important it was, even in just that brief moment, for what it did for you and for your day.
Love that.
Yeah, great reflection point. And that, Brandon, we're glad you jumped in. I'm worried we're about to wrap up. I'm worried our time zones got shifted, but don't go anywhere. I'd love to chat with you in that, guys. I know that time is about set where we start jumping off in that. I'm gonna definitely stick around in that. First of all, Lezya, thank you so much for bringing up this idea of Ikigai. I'm gonna send out a recap email. I'll also put in that Google slide link you did as well, so in case anyone loses it, I'll put that in there along with the picture. But I think you stirred up some awesome ideas. First of all, like helping people figure out like what fills up their bucket. Are we scheduling in time with some of that good stuff once we know that? And then helping point out strengths to strangers helps them slowly realize their strengths and potentially work towards their Ikigai. And then I love the term you used. Instead of us being in silos, you used the term like carpool, like bring people along. I think I'm going to steal that. I like
Please.
that a lot.
Sharing is caring.
I know you also brought up the Netflix special Blue Zone and the Science of Hope, a book by Dr. Hellman. I'll also recap on that just so we got all the stuff in one spot to click as well. But friends, for anybody who needs to get going in that, we respect and value your time. I am going to stick around. Lezya, if you have to go too, we totally understand. If you're sticking around too, if anyone has any comments or questions, feel free. But otherwise, I hope you guys all have a wonderful, happy, healthy evening. And again, Lezya, thank you so much for your time. You always brighten my day with your positive energy.
Thank you. So great meeting everyone, and feel free to reach out and connect. Happy to support.